The Texas School Massacre and Signs of Violent Behavior. We're going to talk about that and more on this edition of Charlie Crimebuster. Well, it's what some people are calling the fastest minutes in podcasting. Well, hello and welcome to this episode of Charlie Crimebuster, and it is indeed with a heavy heart that we come to you today. This is the second week of podcasting about real-time mass shootings. Last week it was a supermarket in a predominantly black community carried out by a self-acclaimed white supremacist. This week it's a horrific, devastating mass shooting in, of all places, an elementary school in Texas. Now, each shooting, it leaves innocent bodies in its wake. We're going to talk about that today, again, with a heavy heart. First, let me welcome you to today's podcast. We're grateful for listeners from the East Coast, the West Coast, and beyond, even in other countries. Well, little did we know that when we started this podcast, that thousands of downloads would occur. But we're indeed grateful to you for taking the time to listen. You see, we try not only to cover true crime on this podcast, but we do so with lessons on safety. In almost every podcast, we will take some moments to share with you and your family how you and your family can keep safe. Also, we've taken the time and the path of helping others by helping those who keep us safe. That is a nonprofit project called the Peacemaker Network, a recognized nonprofit 501c organization which provides support to our heroes of law enforcement, first responders, and the military. Go to peacemakernetwork.com and learn about us. Better yet, go there and become a badge supporter. With as little as $3 a month, you can make a difference in helping our heroes. Hey, it may not surprise you, but heroes themselves support this project. See, they offer backup to their counterparts in helping support those who need it most. Our focus today is on the mass shooting that occurred in Texas. In the hours and days following the fatal shooting of 19 children and their 2 teachers there at Robb Elementary School in Texas. That was on Tuesdays. That the authorities gave shifting and at times, sometimes, contradictory information of what happened and how they responded. Now, that investigation is of course ongoing, but there is much that's already known about, get this, the nearly 2 hours that pass between when authorities say that the gunman, Salvador Ramos, shot his grandmother, and when police radio traffic, then it indicated that the 18-year-old gunman was dead. The siege was over. Did you get that? Nearly 2 hours pass between that time. Well, let's get into it by first of all looking at the timeline. It was sometime after 11 a.m. That's when Ramos shoots his grandmother in the face. That's according to Texas Public Safety Director Steve McCraw. Then it was at 11:27. The video shows a teacher whom authorities yet haven't publicly identified, but that teacher, get this, propped open an exterior door of the school. 11:28, the teacher then exits to retrieve a phone, then returns through the exit door, which, get this, remains propped open. Now McGraw, he went on to say it's not clear why the teacher was retrieving a phone. Department of Public Safety spokesman Travis Considine said Thursday investigators had not yet determined why the door was propped open. Then now it's 11:28 a.m. This is when Ramos crashes the pickup into a drainage ditch behind the school. There were 2 men, incidentally, at a nearby funeral home. They hear the crash. They run out to see what happened. Then they see Ramos jump out of the passenger side, get this, carrying an AR-15 style rifle with a bag full of ammo. The men run, but our shooter fires at them, but fortunately doesn't hit them. One of the men does fall, but both do make it back to the funeral home. Then a panicked teacher emerges from the school, calls 911. Now it's 11:30 a.m. 911 receives a call saying there was a crash and a man with a gun at the school. 11:31, just 1 minute later, Ramos begins shooting at the school, this time from the school parking lot. This is as, get this now, 11:31 a.m., as police cars begin to arrive at the funeral home. Well, then our gunman makes his way around the school building. Now, the school district police officer who was working that day wasn't on campus around this time. That's contrary to previous reports. That's what McCraw said on Friday. Well, the officer, he drives to the school immediately after getting the 911 call. He approaches someone at the back of the school. He thought it was a gunman, but it wasn't. And as the officer sped toward that man who turned out to be a teacher, well, he drove right by the suspect who was hunkered down behind a vehicle. 11:32 a.m., well, our shooter then fires multiple shots at the school, makes his way toward, get that, that open door. 11:33 a.m., just 5 minutes after crashing the pickup, well, our shooter, Ramos, he enters the school. He begins shooting into two adjoining classrooms, 111, 112. That's the number on the classrooms. McCraw says that he fires, get this, more than 100 rounds. 11:35 a.m., well, there's 3 city police officers. They enter the school through the same door that Ramos used and later are followed by 4 other officers. We now have a total of 7 police officers inside the building. 2 of those officers received grazing wounds. 11:37 a.m., well, gunfire's continuing. 16 rounds are being shot. Unclear who fired all those shots. 11:51 a.m., a police sergeant, other law enforcement begin to arrive. 12:03 p.m., just afternoon, a female, age is unknown, calls 911, whispers that she's in a classroom, 112. That call lasts 1 minute, 23 seconds. 12:03 p.m., well, officers continue to enter the school. Now get this, we now have as many as 19 police officers in the hallway near the room there where the shooter is holed up. That's what McCraw tells us. Get that now. 19 officers. Mark this time, 12:03 p.m. You're going to find in this timeline that it's more than an hour, or almost an hour before this shooter is neutralized. So 12:06 p.m., Anne Marie, this is a spokeswoman for the school district. She posts on the district's Facebook page, quote, all campus are under lockdown status. Then she says, parents, please know, at this time all campuses are under a lockdown due to gunshots in the area. Then she goes on to say, now get this, the students and staff are safe in the buildings. Unfortunately, not a total true statement. The buildings are in secure lockdown status. Your cooperation is needed this time by not visiting the campus. As soon as the lockdown status is lifted, you will be notified. Thank you for your cooperation. Now it's 12:10 p.m. There's another female, age unknown, calls 911. Again, says there are multiple dead people. She calls again at 12:13 p.m., then again at 12:16 p.m., then she says there are 8 to 9 students that are still alive. Wounded, but alive, some of them. 12:10 p.m. Well, the first group of deputy U.S. Marshals, they come from Del Rio. That's nearly 70 miles away. They were probably in between there, some of them. They come to assist the various law enforcement officers that are already on the scene. That's according to the Marshal Service. Remember, we already had 19 in the hallway. 12:15 p.m. Well, that's when U.S. Border Tactical Team members arrive with shields. They've got shields this time. Now, mark this time now. Now, they have shields. And yet still, it's nearly 45 minutes before this threat is stopped. 12:19 p.m. Another girl in room 111 calls 911. She ends that call when a fellow student tells her to hang up. 12:21 p.m. Our shooter fires his gun again. Officer believes now that he's at one of the doors of one of the adjoining classrooms. Police move down the hallway. 12:21, 3 shots can be heard during a 911 call. Now around this time, police are stuck in the hallway. You see both classroom doors are locked, and they must seek keys from, get this, a school employee. 12:36 p.m. Another child calls 911, 21 seconds. Around this time, a girl calls 911. She's told to stay on the line, stay very quiet. The girl says he shot the door. 12:43 p.m. The girl urges the 911 dispatcher, please send police now. The girl says she can hear the police next door. 12:47. Again, she says, please send the police now. And 12:50 p.m. Almost an hour after police arrived with shields, officers open the door with keys from a school employee. They do enter the classroom, and they kill the shooter. Shots can be heard over the 911 call. 12:51 p.m., officers can be heard moving children out of the room. And 12:58 p.m., well, the radio chatter, it says, the shooter has been killed. The siege is over. Well, there you have it, my friend. The timeline. And yes, this timeline in particular brings us to way, way more questions than answers. We're going to get to those in a minute, but now it is time for I Recognize Our Courageous Citizen of the Week. We do that every week. But today's recognition is going to be a little different. You see, this is real-time Memorial Day weekend. It is a time when we honor and remember those in service of our country, those who gave their all and sacrificed for our freedoms. So our Courageous Citizens of the Week recognition today, as we share this on Memorial Day weekend, it is in honor of all of those who run to danger instead of away from it. The 116,526 who died for us in World War I. The 405,399 who died for us in World War II. The 33,686 who died for us in the Korea War. The 58,209 who died for us in Vietnam. The 4,404 who died for us in defending freedom in Iraq. The 1,086 who died for us in defending freedom in Afghanistan. And all the others who went away from their homes to defend freedom at the cost of their own lives. Each one of those thousands upon thousands had thousands upon thousands family members left behind, alone. We salute you, we honor you, and remember you, those who gave their all. These are the most courageous citizens of the world. We give that applause in respect, our deepest respect, to the families of those loved ones. Now, after sharing with you the timeline of this horrific shooting in Texas, we definitely have questions. Why did it take so long for officers to stop this threat and the killing of innocent children? We have to be collectively shaking our heads and saying, my God, what kept these officers from following protocol of a response to an active shooter in an elementary school? Even parents were trying to get in there unarmed. They were detained. I would have been one of those if my child had been in there. So would most all of our listeners here at Charlie Crimebuster. Oh, please don't tell me they're simply waiting for shields to arrive. The children in those classrooms, they had no such shields. Please don't tell me it was a locked door and cops were waiting on keys. Where's the breach equipment? See, according to our timeline report, even the shooter himself shot a door. If they were ordered to stand down and wait, that was an order that should have been disobeyed to save lives. Let me tell you something else. Not only there are citizens who are asking questions, law enforcement across this nation are enraged. Our own sheriff here in Volusia County, Sheriff Mike Chitwood, is astonished, assured our people that our deputies here would not hesitate to go in. Even the sheriff himself said if he was on the site, he'd be the first one in. Did you hear that? He would lead the charge. A nearby sheriff in Polk County said boldly, if you attempt a school shooting in our county, you're going to get a bullet in the head. Think that department would hesitate? You do realize that most school shootings today, well, they're over in mere minutes. Law enforcement, since Columbine, well, they've adopted a policy now of immediate breach, make contact with a gunman in a mass shooting, regardless of how many officers are there. Why was that not followed? At one point, there was, according to our public timeline, more than 19 officers in the hallway, yet they're waiting for nearly an hour. An hour for a key to open the damn door? That's asinine. It's incredibly wrong. This is law enforcement at its worst. Even more worse than the school resource officer at the Parkland school shooting waiting outside behind a pillar post. This puts a bad mark on the thousands upon thousands of brave men and women of law enforcement who would not hesitate a second to breach that door or to die trying to breach it. Thankfully, this is not the norm. Then there are other questions that we have, not related to the shooting itself, but questions about what we are doing to recognize the sign of violence that these mass shooters show us, and why are we failing to act on them. That in a moment. Now, most of the time, at this time, we break away for a funny, crazy crook story, but just like last week, we're going to skip that today, in honor of the victims of these past mass shootings. Be a good time for you to remember those brave women who do go after the shooter, the first responders, the awesome military. PeacemakerNetwork.com. Sometimes they need help. They need to get away. They're overworked today, just like businesses and restaurants that don't have enough people to cover the shifts. It's that way in law enforcement today. People are overworked. They need time away. We help them do that through the PeacemakerNetwork.com. Go there today. This is Memorial Day. Do something to honor them. We include the military in our support. PeacemakerNetwork.com. Now, back to our main focus. This man, I'm not even going to use his name anymore. He killed innocent children, teachers. Were there signs of violence? Well, according to breaking news, yes. This teenage gunman who killed 21 people, including 19 children, on Tuesday at the Robb Elementary School, well, he had been arrested 4 years ago. 4 years ago, get this, 4 years ago for planning to shoot up a school when he turned 18 years of age. That is according to Texas Representative Tony Gonzalez. He said that in an interview with Fox News on Friday morning. Gonzalez claimed that the shooter was arrested when he was 14. Now get this, for saying, when I'm a senior in 2022, I'm going to shoot up a school. Now, this Republican congressman, he says that the claim is not hearsay, but information that he was given late last night, though he did not specify where he got that information from. Well, if that's true, wow. Then there's other news that tells us signs that he did reveal this in his own online history. You see, this school shooter, he seemingly passed his time talking to strangers online. Allegedly, he carried on conversations, threats, and aggression. Oftentimes, it was aimed at young women and girls. Now, according to reports, this primarily took place on Yubo. This is an app that features live streaming. alongside large chat rooms that are called panels. In just months before he released this carnage inside the classroom at Robb Elementary, well, the 18-year-old, he posted images, now get this, of dead cats, talked about sexual violence and assault. That's according to the Washington Post. He also, get this, shared photos of a rifle he claimed he was going to use to shoot up a school. And in one video from a live chat room recorded by other Yubo users, well, he can be allegedly heard saying everyone in this world deserves to get raped. He continued his disturbing speech online. A 16-year-old from Austin, Texas, he recalled his online behavior, the shooter's behavior on the post. He added that he received a death threat from the suspected shooter way back in January. He said, I witnessed him harass girls, threaten them with sexual assault like rape, kidnapping. That's what the teen said, who did not wish to be identified. It was not like a single occurrence, he said. It was frequent. He said he and his friends repeatedly reported the shooter, Ramos, for bullying and other offenses. And my friend, get this now, Hannah, she's an 18-year-old from Ontario. She did not wish to leave her last name. But she said this alleged gunman also threatened to shoot up her school and rape and kill her and her mother during one of the live-streamed sessions. She reported him in April. She told CNN about that. But he was back online just after a week-long ban. More questions, right? Why was this guy not on local police radar? Why was he not flagged when he purchases weapons? My friend, we have to get better. We have to get better at seeing the signs and reacting to those signs. Now, while it's not possible to always predict violent behavior, and sometimes it's difficult in seeing those signs, there are some early signs. While none of these signs alone may be sufficient for predicting aggression and violence, it can be useful in taking a better look at people. These are early warning signs, and they go like this. Social withdrawal. Excessive feelings of isolation, being alone. Excessive feelings of rejection, being themselves a victim of violence. Feelings of being persecuted, low school interests, poor academic performance. Expression of violence in writings, drawings, get this, and postings. Uncontrolled anger. Patterns of impulsive, chronic hitting, intimidating, bullying behaviors. History of discipline problems, violent, aggressive behavior. Intolerance for differences. Use of drugs and alcohol. Affiliation with gangs. Inappropriate access to firearms. Serious threats of violence. Now you see, while those are warning signs, they are warning signs to alert, quote, your, quote, unquote, spidey reflexes. But there are also warning signs to spur you, not only just to alert your spidey senses, but some warning signs that need your immediate attention. We're going to tell you about that in a moment. But first, let me share something else. When children have positive, meaningful connections to an adult, whether it be at home, in the school, or in the community, well then, my friend, that potential for violence is reduced significantly. You see, I have a friend, a co-worker. She has her child involved in a very fun-filled, filling activity at a very early age. I'm not going to share who and what out of respect of their privacy and to protect them. But I can assure you that she's the most proud mother of the year. You see, these are the kind of things that parents need to be doing. Helping kids live fulfilled and joyful moments in life. This is what the focus of family should really be all about. Put down the damn phone. Get involved in something besides finger exercises in front of a digital screen. And please, be aware of these intimate warning signs. Because unlike early warning signs that may cause you to at least take a look and use caution, these intimate warning signs, they indicate that a student is very close. very close to behaving in a potentially dangerous way to himself or others. These are what I call imminent warning signs. They require an immediate response. Usually they can be evident to more than one staff member, as well as the child's family. They do include, but they are not limited to, the following: serious physical fighting with peers or family members, severe destruction of property, severe rage for seemingly minor reasons, often self-injurious behavior, threats of suicide, threats of lethal violence, and a detailed plan, time, place, method to harm and kill others, particularly if the child has a history of aggression, or maybe they've even attempted to carry out threats in the past. Last week we shared with you the phases of a mass shooter. You need those phases to keep in mind as you go along with these signs. If you haven't listened to last week's podcast, go back and listen to it. Go to charliecrimebuster.com. There you can have access to it. See, these signs, they really do need immediate intervention. Intervention by school authorities, possible law enforcement, especially if a child has a detailed plan to commit violence. And parents, of course, they should be informed immediately when students exhibit any of these threatening behavior. School communities, they have a responsibility to reach out to others, especially the police. Call the police. You may recall on one of our past podcasts a school shooting episode where a young man was at a parent conference about his disturbing drawings, sitting there talking all the time with a weapon in his backpack that was never searched. If the police had been called, that backpack would have been searched. A school shooting would not have occurred. Needless to say, my friend, every police department and law enforcement agency, they should have an active shooter squad, constantly looking for signs of this type of violent behavior. Yes, I'm calling on departments to immediately, if not already, implement what I call a SWAT Geek Squad. That's right, SWAT Geek Squad. SGS. See, we're already using these types of investigators looking for child molesters. Let's have an entire SWAT Geek Squad looking for signs. You see, my friend, we can do that. We can look for shooters and for those who molest children. We can do that, and we can still respect privacy laws of abiding individuals. It's as simple as this. Someone who threatens to do a school shooting then will post pictures of their weapons, post them online. They do need to be investigated right away prior to a horrible, horrific action like this one. Well, there you have it. There you have it. Please, my friend, remember our fallen ones, both citizen and military. Say a prayer for their families. And remember the victims that are left behind in this horrific school shooting. The parents, the parents that will not sleep for weeks and weeks and weeks and will never forget. This is probably the most horrible time in their lives when their children were killed in a school shooting in an elementary school. So next time, this is Charlie Crimebuster reminding you, stay alert, stay safe. For the life you save, it may very well be your own and others.